brain could only see equal to how it's wired. If there's no circuitry for patterns in the brain, then you don't see reality, right? It's called pattern recognition. So then how do we begin to see things that exist, but we don't have the circuitry to perceive, right? In other words, we don't see things how they are, we see things how we are. So you spend the majority of your life narrowing your focus on everything material in this three-dimensional reality. You see objects, you see things, you see people, you see bodies, you see places, and our senses plug us into the three-dimensional reality. So everything that's known to us is wired in our thinking neocortex. So what we're seeing, and it's happened to me so many times, let's say you have a profound mystical experience. There's 4 states of consciousness. There's wakefulness, there's sleep, there's dreaming, and then there's the transcendental moment. Now that transcendental moment is something that we have been working to induce. In fact, we now know we can induce it. We've measured it. We know the pineal gland in certain areas of the brain become active, that the limbic brain all of a sudden moves into high frequencies. And a person has a full-on sensory experience without their senses. In other words, whatever's going on between their ears is more real than anything they've ever experienced before. So if your senses are heightened, right now, if everything you were seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, if your senses were heightened, your awareness of everything around you would be heightened as well. Well, awareness is consciousness, and you can't have consciousness without energy. So in a sense then, if a person has a transcendental experience and they start interacting with beings that are not physical, if they have that really profound experience, that experience is going to be logged in their brain because experience enriches their brain, yes? The end product of an experience is an emotion, but you wouldn't feel fear from these beings. You would feel a kind of a love or a grace or a presence or an acceptance. And so then you wouldn't be intimidated or afraid of them. You wouldn't throw them into the box of some dogma or superstition. It's a profound moment where you're feeling such profound and intense love that you're leaning in and paying attention to the pictures in your mind. And in a sense, the stronger the emotion you feel from that inner event, the amount of gratitude or love or joy that you feel, the more you pay attention to the pictures in your mind. Now you're branding and embossing new circuitry in the brain. Now, what's the significance of that? Well, when you come back to your senses, to Lilu, now you can perceive a broader spectrum of reality because you're going to begin to see things that have always existed, but you didn't have the circuitry to perceive them. So then, as we activate the pineal gland, it acts like a radio receiver, and those tiny little crystals, as we talked about in our last interview, begin to shimmer. And if a student or a person can begin to tune into energy and frequency, to know how to suppress the mechanism of the neocortex, the memory bank of the known self, to slow their brain waves down into theta, and in that state where the body's asleep and the mind is awake, and you can tune into frequencies and activate that system, that little pineal gland is going to hook into a frequency that's carrying information, and it's known as a transducer, which means it's like a radio antenna or a TV antenna. It's going to translate that frequency into profound imagery. That imagery then is not going to be anything that's known to you. It's going to be something that's outside the scale of known. So when a person comes back to their senses, they're going to perceive a broader spectrum of reality. So I guess about 5 or 6 years ago, I started sensing these presences in the room during our week-long events.
Started at the week-long events?
Well, it started at the 4.5-day workshops. I started, out of the corner of my eye, started perceiving certain things, primarily when we were doing the pineal gland meditations. I had other meditations as well, but there was an energy in the room that I noticed, and they're very noble, and they're very interested in what we're doing.
Observing?
Many, many times in the beginning, they observe. They are along the walls, and they're not small. They're very, very tall.
How tall?
Most of them probably 3 meters, maybe more tall. I mean, they're beautiful and big, and they have this grace about them and this presence, and they're very interested. They observe, and when I started seeing them and perceiving them, I never really asked who they were. I just observed. And for me, when we do the pineal gland meditations, I'm up at 3 in the morning or 2:30 in the morning, and we're going, and everybody's sitting up and laying down, and I'm awake the entire time, and I'm working with the audience, and I start doing the meditations with my eyes closed while I'm doing it, and a lot of times I open my eyes and I'm in theta. The door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is wide open, and in a sense, I'm dreaming with my eyes open, and all of a sudden I start perceiving things. Well, when that started happening, people started reporting things back to me, and sometimes it was kind of cool because we started getting stories of 2 different people in a room of 1,000 people saying, I saw this incredible thing, and the other person saw the exact same thing. And I saw something very similar. I never said it, but all of a sudden you're starting to get a collective noticing something happening. Well, I was getting ready for the day at one of our events, and as I was waking up and moving around and I was between worlds, they started talking to me. And they said to me, we can only lower our frequency to a certain point. We can't lower our frequency anymore, our energy anymore, because we would change our consciousness, and we love ourselves too much to do that. But if you can raise the frequency of the audience to a higher frequency, we'll meet in that place where that energy intersects. And so there's an invitation or a door for them to move through or to exist as. And
They've been supporting your work?
Yeah. I don't know if they directly support my work, but I'll tell you that maybe the better word to use is they approve of it. And there would be like an older sister, an older brother that totally loves you and sees that you're really making an effort, you're making great strides, and they're just a little bit higher on the spiral, you know? So if you have a coherent heart and you're able to manage that and sustain the heart coherence, the field around your body begins to expand up to 3 meters wide, and that frequency, that coherent frequency, is like a Wi-Fi signal. You got a signal now. And at the same time, once energy makes it to the heart and it goes to the brain, and you teach a person how to create a coherent brain and be able to suppress the mechanism of the thinking neocortex, the memory bank of the known self, teach a person how to operate from their limbic brain and tune that pineal gland into frequency and allow that pineal gland to lock into a frequency. Now you have a Wi-Fi signal as well, and it can read information. And these beings, I was doing this event in Florida, in Amelia Island. It was an advanced advanced follow-up. And this is people that have done advanced workshops, and the event was called Dreamtime, that we're up from 11 at night till 8 in the morning for the mystical. And if you don't want to do the mystical, don't come. But I'm going to be messing with your sleep. And I stay up the entire night. I'm watching the entire audience, and we're keeping them between worlds, between wakefulness and sleep in that theta realm. And many people have very profound transcendental experiences. Why we're doing it. And I was trying to think of a way to explain this to the audience, and I had just finished the morning. I hadn't done my meditation, so I went in my room, I sat up, I did my meditation, and then I laid down. And when I laid down, all of a sudden, I see this beautiful fractal pattern with my eyes closed in the room. And the moment I see that fractal pattern, I know that that's order, that's information, a packet, a standing wave of information. And I sense it, I see it with my eyes closed, and then it unfolds, like it rolls out, and this beautiful being is standing right next to me. And I'm sitting there with my eyes closed, and I say, oh shit, like holy, like whoa. And I hear it laugh, and it sounds like a symphony, like a harmony. And it said to me while I was thinking about how to explain how we read frequencies, like that fractal pattern, that's information. And it said, may I suggest a barcode? And I thought, while he said that or she said that, I said, what do you know about barcodes? Do you shop in a supermarket? And it laughed really loud. And as soon as I saw the barcode I knew that the only way a barcode could be read is with a laser. And a laser is coherent light. And when you have that coherent heart and that coherent brain, now you're producing a very multidimensional signal. And now you can read that fractal. It's just information. It's coming from source, and it's slowing down into patterns, and your pineal gland is actually going to take that and transduce that into profound imagery. That's what it's going to do. So it's like a barcode. So then, as we begin to create more coherence in the brain, more coherence in the heart, you're creating a very profound laser, a Wi-Fi signal that can allow you to read information. You can't read it if you're separate. You can't read it if your brain's incoherent. You can't read it if your heart's incoherent. And so the more coherence and order you have, the more the experience gets enriched, because you can't read that information unless you're ready for it. That's the point. So as people start getting through this and they start having very profound moments, and they're now opening their heart, and they can sustain heart coherence, and they know how to create brain coherence. That's the formula. And now they have a laser. They have coherent light and information that can read information that exists beyond the senses. And the pineal gland, once activated, will transduce it into profound imagery. And whether you see it with your eyes open or your eyes closed, doesn't matter, because it's more real than anything you've ever experienced.